Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 207 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you so much for lending me your ears today. I have an amazing guest for you today. I can't wait to share. She and I are just full of giggles, but there is a lot of business wisdom in there, I promise you. So thank you for making me and my podcast one of your choices to listen into today. If you are enjoying this podcast, then I super love it if you would take a screenshot of you listening to this and share it on your socials, and maybe even tag me, or definitely tag me, because then I can get to follow you and get to know you a little bit better as well. Don't forget, you can find the show notes for this particular episode at all the W's, social media and marketing.com.au/207. Before I get started though, how did you go with last week's episode 206? If you didn't listen into that one, then once you're finished here with my special guest Cathy and I, slip back there and listen in for even more Small Business Made Simple gold. I'm actually talking about community building on that episode. It's a good one to listen to, especially if you need a community building strategy for your business. And again, just before I get into today's episode, if you are a business owner who's really struggling to get content out there and struggling for content ideas, then have you signed up for my monthly calendar of prompts? It's a creative content prompt calendar. So basically has this content prompt for every day of the month, and being September, every day in September, just to really help you with your content, and of course to help you not do the same thing all the time and look outside the square a little bit. If you haven't got a copy of that and you would like one, then just go to bit.ly/Jen September calendar and sign up, and it will get delivered to you instantly. Again, if you're looking for that link, just head to the show notes. Anyways, let's get on to today's episode and my guest. Cathy Rust is my guest today, and she's an incredible human, and she has some amazing knowledge and some great lessons for us around language and the words we use as small business owners. This really is a great episode, and I actually love listening back to it and hearing all her wisdom again. It was really interesting to listen to it a couple of times, because Cathy is a linguistologist. See, I had to try that. I've been practicing and I buggered it up. A linguistologist. It is a massive word for little Jenny Donovan. But she's all about the words and our story and our journey that words take both us on, but also our community and our audience. So I hope you really love this episode. Let's hear a little bit more about Cathy, what she does, and of course her linguisticness. That's not even a word. I really did just make that one up. Cathy Rust, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We've had a great chat even before we've pressed record. So for those of you who have missed out on that, I'm really sorry, but I'm pretty sure there's some gold left for you. Cathy, super welcome.
Oh, that was my cue?
Yeah, that was your cue.
Hello, I'm Cathy Rust, and I'm a linguistologist. And yes, that is fun to say 3 times fast. Linguistologist. Nailed it. That means I can human and business today. That's kind of my temperature check. And I work with businesses to find their business language and find out what they want to say and how they're saying it, and then tune and tweak and poke and prod, and usually with a tickle, to find out a way that works for them and just find a whole new level of love and passion in their business, which then flows on to working with or selling with their customers and clients.
So do you work with them through producing social content, content writing for websites or for sales pages, or a raft of everything?
Yeah, so I am really. It's actually funny you say this. So I'm about to share this. So now if I say it out loud, that means I've got to do it, right?
Oh, yes. So this is a podcast exclusive then, obviously. Thank you.
I literally have it on the other screen here. Like I was just, like I said to you before, I rewrote half my website this morning because that's what I do. When I feel like changing the words, I do it because that's what language does. Change it and it's a living thing. And so, what I'm going to offer is 15 minutes. It's usually to write an email. That email that has been driving you bonkers, or you've been putting off, or you just don't know how to say. And usually it takes about 15 minutes for me to get in there, ask the questions, whip it up, and boom, you've got it. You can send it off, whether it be the sort of a blanket autoresponder for your out of office, or it might be something to work with a client or to respond to a client in some regard, especially around complaints. Love those. So it's that's what I'm going to be. That's how I work with people, is comfortable in their writing. But I also do. I don't do social. What don't I do? I don't do website creations. I don't do social content creations. I work with the humans to understand what they want to say, how they want to say it. So whether they write it or instruct another person to do that, then they are clear and they are confident in what they're saying. So it makes it easy to convey that message. So working with me is very, I loved it. I heard it on Ghostbusters the other day. Very cerebral. And so it's very brainy, as in the brain stuff, as one of my clients described it to me. I've never met someone who does business brain stuff like you. And I said, that's right.
Beautiful. So what's a linguistic? How did you become a linguistic? And I've been practicing saying that, in case you are listening to this. I've been practicing saying linguistic and having the roller coaster run around my mouth while I try and pronounce it. So how did that come about? How long have you been one? What was the passion that led you there?
Oh, I love it. So when we say this is really cool, because you don't know me from a bar. So we met in a wonderful shared business network, as I love to meet new people. And I obviously said something like, cool, can you come and have a chat with my people? I think they'll love your jam. And that's pretty much what you know about me.
Yes.
So, and you have positioned me as a linguistiologist working in linguistiology. And so when we say something with such confidence, it's real. It's absolutely real. It's a thing. We assume it's a thing. Go and look up linguistiologist and see where you find it. You'll only come back to me every single time, because it's actually... Wait, what's my swearing level on here? Is it kind of PG-ish?
PG-ish, yes. I like to click the clean button when I'm putting my podcast up.
Okay, it's more Aussie slang. It's an Aussie idiom. We'll put it that way. It's a bit of a piss take on formal titles. And because I've been in formal title roles, I trained in psychology and I practiced as a provisional psychologist. It ate my soul, so I had to leave that space and go somewhere else and take what I learnt from there. I've worked in other areas where they usually had ist on the end and ology on the end. And so what happened is, part of my training where I landed and bringing all of the things, it's not one thing that brought me here, because I saw so many people that got those titles, those qualifications, those accreditations, that didn't actually connect or know what they were doing with what they were doing. And a lot of instances, I was actually really uncomfortable with what they were creating with the people they were working with. So, but having such a title, we need to be put into a category straight away. People ask, who are you? What do you do? That's what you asked me at the very start, because you want to know where to plop you in your brain structure. Where are you going to put me in the framework that you have? What bucket do you want to throw me in so that you can group together and know how to work with me, or to know how to behave around me? So, and when you hear linguistics is around the tongue. It actually comes from the Latin word for tongue, and it's around speaking. Specifically, but then it's kind of got lost in translation and landed in writing. So it's a combination of the spoken and the written word. And I created linguistiology and linguistiologist, and say it with such confidence that people at barbecues, and this is where I really wanted it because I was so tired about saying, oh, this is what I do. I notice people's language, I detect what they're saying, and then I let them know what language strategies they're using, how they can use those, and strengthen what they're doing to make it easier for what they're doing. Things go from hard to easy, and a bit of fun when you learn something that you didn't know you were doing that you naturally do. Kind of like when you say do your horoscope and you're like, yes, that's totally me. I'm a Sagittarius and I'm a fire sign and want to fire rockets everywhere. That's me. It's just this wonderful way to learn something new about yourself. So I created that term to people to go, oh, cool, linguistiologist. I totally know what that is. No, you don't. And so then I go, great. So any other questions? No. Okay, cool. I've got one for you. Where are the chips? So that's usually me at a barbecue. But yeah, so how I came to be here is that I have collected a knowledge from being in state and Commonwealth governments for around 20 years, just under 20 years. I exited just before then. And I learnt a lot of things in theory. I learnt a lot of things from experience, and there is a big gap. And so that's what I'm here to use language to take what should work, what's known to work, what the research has shown, what's actually happened, what's not happening, what do we want, and usually it's in the language. And so, and that's where I detect it going off of my natural information processing. So, yeah, that's where I've landed here, taking the marriage of humaning personally and professionally up to this point, and getting everybody to look at their words, giggle at what they're actually creating, and then like immediately, as soon as you know something, you can use it straight away. Yeah. And so you cannot not hear it. And it's this wonderful thing that is both energizing, and it can also require a lot of energy as well.
Okay. All right. I was just reading your bio when I call you a linguistiologist. See, I can't even say it now. I'm out. We can
just, but the point is, make it up. That is the point, because it's all make up. These are all constructs that are created by humans. You can be the human that creates that. So it's the point of words is that they are only going and doing what you want them to do.
So now I'm going to become a marchaeologist, and I'm going to own marchaeology. All right.
Yeah, but make sure you can say it without spitting on people.
Okay.
Because it sounds like with that, and I'll play with this a little bit, because it sounds like you're going to hawk up a loogie, like marchaeologist. And so you've got to try it on different marchaeologists. So yeah, can you say it 3 times fast? Marchaeologist, marchaeologist, marchaeologist.
Yeah. I can, but I sound like something to do with monkeys. All right, we might move on.
The point is, play with it, own it, say it with confidence, and you believe it. Yeah, that's right. They want to believe you, and they want to know how it is true. So backing it up. I know my story under it. It's not usually as long as I just shared with you, but that's an example of knowing and believing in something, because I know the story underneath it and what it's doing.
Yeah, beautiful. In our pre-take of our conversations, you mentioned something to me that I thought was super interesting that I would like to dive into a little bit further. Now we have the record button clicked and other people can hear what we're talking about. And it was around you helping people find their vision for their businesses. I think that is something that people get stuck on. I know for myself, I have a little tiny, really bad habit of being a bright, shiny object chaser. In fact, I've been chasing one this morning. I shan't say what it is on the podcast in case it never comes to fruition, but it's just like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. What's that about? So, but is it on my vision board? Absolutely not. Not until about 9 o'clock last night when I thought about it. So,
Love it.
can you talk to us a little bit about how we find our vision, both for, I guess, our life and our business?
Yeah, so it's specific to a context. So we can talk about,
Business.
I'll talk about it in business, but just translate it, put it to life, put it to relationships, put it to spirituality, put it to sexuality, whatever you like, put it wherever you like. But this one is specific. I'll talk to business because that's appropriate here. Before you know what or how it is, you need to know where it fits in and what it's doing. And the easiest way I can position this simply is the vision is so far off. It's that dot on the horizon. If we think of the old school computer games, where you've got that rolling, like literally, even if just before computer games, kind of like arcade games, you've got that rolling road and there's a dot on the horizon that you never reach, but you know you're going toward, and it doesn't feel like you're in the same spot at any one time, but that's your anchor point. Or if you think of that as like you're tied to a string there, and say you're water skiing, there we go, there's a good one. You're never staying on the straight path, but that's your turning point. That's kind of your axis. Is that the right word? I don't know how to.
Your
But anyway,
North
that's your.
Star?
Yeah, I've heard that. I'm not on board with it
Okay.
because yes, maybe because I can't see the stars that quick. Yeah, I live in the city.
Maybe
so
it's
I
the
can't see them.
Catholic in me, the three
There we
wise
go.
men trying to find the star. Yes.
There we go. Well, it is one of our oldest ways of finding our way anywhere in the world, isn't it? So that's you find how your story. So mine is that dot on the horizon that you'll never reach. I mean, the sun's a good example. You'll never reach the sun, but you keep moving towards the sun. So we are going toward that and we never reach it. So that's a vision.
Mm-hmm.
What happens is when a vision is too detailed, too close to us, and we know that we're going to reach it, say our mission. Our mission is what we do every day to get to that closer and closer to that vision. The vision is so big that it can have any situation that comes up. It's just there to keep us on track and to keep us anchored to that point in our business. And I can tell you mine in a moment. And so the mission moves us and that's on the track, whatever our track looks like. And then we have things like goals and milestones. Those are the things, they're the finishing lines, whether it be a sprint or a marathon, that we achieve. So and an impact statement, that's kind of something between a goal and a mission. And that's where you have that bigger one, like I'm going to work with blah number of people between here and here and have them saying the word linguistiology. That's like that's an impact statement, and I'm going to achieve this by blah. So the vision is so big that it's there, that anything that comes up that day, that moment, or that year, whatever it might be in your business, it keeps you facing in that direction and moving toward that thing. So my vision is inspire humaning. Okay. And so and I know what that means. So that is to breathe. Actually, inspire, I learned another way of how the origins of inspire, but it's to breathe air into. So we are about moving into and having that life. It's an example of life. A life of what? Well, that's where the human part comes in. We are so colourful. We are so dented and scratched. We're never the same in any one moment. And so it's a living thing. So that's why you'll see, and it's an M dash, if you want to get technical, M dash ING. So inspire, humaning, that's my vision. So how I use that every day is I'll go, okay, when I'm making a decision, whether it be something from buying a subscription to coming in on the socials, whether I'm going to post an Instagram story, how I'm engaging on Instagram. I've just developed a social media engagement strategy for myself that finally aligns with this part where I'm driving the algorithm for me and not the other way around. So the question I ask is if I do this thing, if I post this thing, if I say yes to this thing, how does that inspire humaning? And then I also ask, if I do this thing, whatever it might be, the same things, how does that not inspire humaning? So by doing that, it's just that idea of keep looking in that direction, because it's all about focusing on that thing. And the key to a vision is that it usually is 2, 3, 4 words if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends. It's definitely for small business. You wouldn't be going too far beyond that. Bigger business, again, I think that they can still tidy it up. But and some people might have it as their tagline. That might already be their vision. So finding it I've got a really fun way of finding it. And it's about moving up logic levels and moving away from what you do, how you do it, and all those things, and getting so far above the trees that you go, yeah, that's my spot, that's my business right there, and I know it's my business, and this is it's about creating those things that roll off your tongue. You use them, but you also invite people in on it. And part of that is that, do you know how many times a week people say to me when I put myself in front of people, they say, oh, I'm so inspired. Heck, you are. Of course you are, because that's my business vision. That's what I'm here to do. Everything I'm doing right now is about inspire, humaning, and humouring as well. But yeah, humaning.
So
does that answer your question?
Yeah, it answers a question and puts 1,000 others out there, which is the whole idea, I guess, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But how does someone... So we understand now what you see is our vision, or what our vision could be, but how do you find it? Like, is it a matter of working with someone like you and you asking those questions that will tickle us? Was it tickle, the word that you used?
Yeah, it's kind of different for everyone. The face, some people really enjoy it. Some people it is looks like I am in the dental practice, but I have found, I'd say it's about working with someone that knows how to elicit something like that, because you know too much about your business.
Mm-hmm.
And so because you know too much, it is a challenge to separate and to practice that separation and to stand outside your building and go, oh, you're about blah. Mm-hmm. And so trusting and having a trust in someone to find that there is, trusting yourself to go there, as well as trusting other people to come up and create that North Star, if that's your jam, that dot on the horizon, is a really, you'll do it once, a well-structured, it's a bit like branding. If you've got that wonderful balance in your branding, it grows with you. Mm-hmm. And it's just that you might change one of your neutrals through to your accent colors and things like that, or a shade here or there, or you might tweak your logo a little bit, but still it's got that essence and feel to it, so people know how to find you as you grow in your business. So it would be a challenge. I mean, I did it, but that's because I do it day in, day out. It would be a challenge to do it on your own, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. So that is quite a good segue into my next question that I was going to ask you about, which, you were talking about, growing your brand and you growing along with your brand. And one of the things that I talk a lot about for my audience is human to human marketing, is to showing up to your audience, give them someone to know, like, and trust. But one of the questions I get asked a lot is about, what if I don't feel comfortable sharing my story? And I know that this is one of the things that you chat about as well, is, how do you share parts of your story that you are comfortable sharing, and perhaps not share the bits that you're not comfortable sharing? Like, what is the language you can put around that, both for yourself but also for your audience?
Yeah, so that's where something like your vision. And by the way, I mean, I, I just realized I'm like, oh, dude, you just cornered yourself as if to say people can't business without you. That's the conversation I just had with myself. And I'm like, no, I'm not. No, that's not where I was going with that. Again, whatever rolls out, I'm always analyzing it and then going, okay, cool. How do I move that and shift that? And usually, so this is me humaning.
Yeah.
This is me saying something that made a bit of sense, but not the sense and doesn't align with me. If you've got a tagline, if you've got keywords that you use, then you can start to use those and poke and prod until it feels so big that you'll never achieve it, but then you're always achieving it in some way. That's how you know you're in your vision range. It's not a sentence. Usually,
Yeah.
that's usually your impact or closer to your mission. So yeah, your vision will help you point out everything underneath. So you probably talk about social pillars. Is that what you talk about in your
A
world?
little bit. Yeah.
A little bit. That's just an example of themes. But yeah, so your vision is just like the umbrella of what you want to share with people, how you want to share it. And so the easiest way is you pick a story, you pick a theme. So you pick what people want to know. But the point is not to look at what it is or what happened. People actually don't give a rat's about what happened. They want to know how it relates to them.
Mm-hmm.
They want you to lay a canvas so that they can paint their own story over it. So however you friggin' say it, it doesn't matter. They're not going to hear it, but they're going to feel it. They're going to see it. So it's about knowing where it fits in and how you share your story. So you need to know what that story is going to get you before you pick the story, because otherwise you're reverse engineering, and that's where it can feel kind of out of alignment. So what do you want to achieve? I want people to see that I'm real. Okay, cool. So this is a conversation I would have with a lot of people. Want to show up with that authenticity, that realness, and those kind of things. Well, how far is real enough? How far is too real? And those kind of things. And that's where you start those conversations. Well, I want people to know that, and I'll give you an example of my business because I can speak ad nauseum about this, and it does give you nausea sometimes, is that I want people to know that all of the emotions are natural. And so if you are in any one emotion for an extended period of time, that's when you want to catch what's happening in your language world. Who are you surrounding yourself with? What story do you want to share around that? And those kind of things. So I want people to become aware of their language in all of those emotions and those kind of things. And so what I do is sometimes I'll share a personal story. I'll pick one. I just retired a story, which is fun. So yeah, so I had my old health story, my old pain story, my old sick story, which was about my 20s and 30s, where I had a chronic illness, a couple of them actually. They were dancing wonderfully together, but I'm done with that. And by talking and focusing on that, I stayed in that spot. So I retired that story, and I no longer talk about that, but I'll talk about it in a sense. So it's about going and looking at what you want to achieve, what it gets you in your business, and then what are some examples. So this is the key thing. What are some examples that you could show? And it might be you. It might be something that you have access to. Like I share a lot of Lad Bible, because they are in the stories and then add a little bit of something about it. Like today, if you look there, you're going to get the feels because of the thing that I post there. Fridays and Mondays, I usually try and raise the vibe, and I'll put a dancing video. At the moment, I'm in love with this dancing sausage. And so it's about this wonderful sense of bringing in the different senses. It's not about the words. It's about what those words are doing. So we want to raise the vibe, or you want to lower the vibe. You want to point them in a certain direction. So yes, it's about what do you need to achieve in your business? What do you I'm just mapping it out so that it's quite clear, because I realized I just said a lot of words. What do you want to achieve in your business? What parts of your world, or are examples in your world, professional or personal or neither, making it up, doesn't matter, create a character that fit in with achieving that. How do you know when you're achieving that? So what kind of feelings, what kind of sounds, what kind of response are you getting? So you are putting those metrics kind of in to see the engagement that you have around that. And then pick out some examples, multiple examples, and it might best be that you focus on one part over and over and over again. But know that know your no-go zones.
Yeah.
And it might be a whole section, or it might be a part of that story. So there's a couple of parts of my stories that I don't need people to give me their 2 cents or to tell me that it's okay. And it just peeves me off. So I'm like, I'm not going to show up and give this wonderful sense and have that burden of that kind of noise in my world for the sake of showing that I'm a real human. So how else can I do it? And so coming up and crafting ways that align with you, and you know it because you'll feel it, or it will look really clear. And if it's not that yet, then you just ask the question, what's another way? What's another way? What's another way?
I remember listening to a keynote of an ex SAS officer of Australia, and he was giving an inspiring keynote. And it was possibly one of the worst keynotes I've ever heard in my life, because he talked about a situation over in Afghanistan where he, was doing what he needed to do as an SAS officer, and it involved a child. So he started the story talking about this child and setting the scene up about this child. Well, he talked for another 40 minutes and I didn't hear a word he said, because all I wanted to know was that child okay? And he didn't tell me for 40 minutes whether that child was okay. So I can't remember anything else about that keynote except that awful feeling. I'm like, is this child going to live? So sometimes, like, his storytelling didn't get the message that he wanted to a mother like myself who was sitting in the room, because I completely missed the point of anything else, because he took me on a wrong journey with his story. So sometimes we need to realize, what is the impact of our story is going to be on other people.
People actually don't want the answer. By the way, people ask a question and they don't actually want the answer. So I used to say, answer people's question. They'll go, ask me about my old crime scenes.
Yeah.
Or they'll see that I went to a particular job that was on the news or something like that. And I'll tell them what I could tell them, or I'll give them a sense of what it was, and you could see it in their face. It took me a little bit to notice it, because I didn't know how to detect it, but they actually didn't want to know, because then they couldn't unknow that.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
And so what do you, so that's a really good point. Your example there is a really good point, and that's, yes, you've just reminded me, because, sorry, you probably picked out that most of my conversations are very much responsive to my audience. So
well, I guess for me, it's kind of like I have an amazing story of how I learnt that I was a leader.
Yeah.
So I had something happen, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like this other Jen Donovan took over, and I have no idea who she was or where she come from. I didn't know I had that person inside me, but I can't tell that story because of similar reasons to the Army SAS officer. The story is going to be too powerful for people and not actually powerful for me. Like, it's just, it'll bring up too many emotions for other people if I try and explain that story. So for me, that leadership story, I've never worked out how to craft that, because I can't. It's too.
But what you've done, though, if you've just made it really clear on where to start, and that's the feeling. So don't start with the story, because then you'll go into what happened, because we naturally will recall it and connect to that story. But what do you want instead? What do you want your audience to feel? And you've got to learn feeling words. So some people think that by showing something that was traumatic that you came back from, that people will feel inspired. No, people will feel freaking traumatized. And so they cannot not hear those things or unknow those things.
Yes.
I mean, I walk around the world and I'll see instances. Now, again, I won't say them because they will trigger certain things, but I can see how people are like, oh, that's lovely. And I'm like, oh, this is how that could not be okay situation. Do I need to pay attention to that? Like, I've just got my old police brain just going cray and then going, that might not be okay. And so things like that where it's something that I can't unknow, but I can train it and put it to where I want. So knowing the feeling, so yes, knowing what you need to achieve and what you want people to feel about your business, knowing that feeling and the range that can be in there. So I want people to feel excited, to feel joyful. Like I was so excited this morning. I sent a story off last night to two people that I'm working with. I'm like, I felt joy because of this. And it was that sense, and I can tell you what my joy feeling is. My joy feeling is that sense of jumping out of a hot shower and jumping into fresh PJs, fresh sheets, flannel at this time of the year, and snuggling in with a hot Belgian chocolate with a bit of orange. It doesn't matter, that's too much detail. But a hot chocolate and watching a movie, settling into a movie, that there is my bliss. And so I sent off and I said, I can't tell you how excited that I am. Words don't cover this, but I want you to get the feel of what I had. And guess what? I got 2 responses like that. They've never answered me so quickly to say, oh my gosh, oh, the joy. I'm so going to carry this warm and fuzzy feeling. I didn't say warm and fuzzy. They did. Warm and fuzzy feeling for the rest of the day. So that's the kind of thing. You can sneak it into your social media. You can sneak it into your emails. Put it in there. Build your brand. And I love the words in the cracks. I love copy in the cracks. Where are you leaking in that sense of what you want them to feel? And it's about us learning the range of feelings and leaving and making sure the last thing you say in any sentence is what you want them to feel. So you'll never hear me say, don't worry, don't hesitate. What's another one? I can't even think of another off the top of my head because I've kind of deleted them all. So people put these things, don't forget. You'll never hear me say those. Instead, you can say, you can be confident, you can be calm, you can be curious, you can be purple. I freaking don't care. Make it up. And so you can be purple.
It reminds me of a parenting tip. And I know this isn't a parenting podcast, but I learned with my 3 children very, very early on that if I said to someone, can you do the dishes, please, Alexander? No. All he heard was Alexander. If I said, Alexander, can you do the dishes? He heard what I said. But because if I ever put their names last, they'd be like, pardon? But if I put their names first, their ears are pricked and then I can talk to them. Best parenting hack ever if you want something done. Doesn't always work, but at least you know they got the message.
It's called the recency effect.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah, I'm smarter than an average bear.
Well, you're human. It's just, by the way, anything that's like that, those kind of fancy words, they're just observed over and over and over again that somebody put a word to it. I can also give you another here's a quick and dirty language strategy. If you want someone to do something, give them a double bind. This is an easy one that you can do straight away. Give them a choice, 2 choices that you want. And the easy thing is, so say for that example there, okay, you'd say, Alexander, are you going to do the dishes now or in 5 minutes? And then you put the one that you want. So if you want him to do it in 5 minutes, you put it, or you're going to do it in 5 minutes, or you're going to do it now. I'll do it now. Okay, cool. So play it cool, and you're like, oh, yes, that worked. You got to play it cool because otherwise they get sus of things. But yeah, double bind is a great way. So I'll say it to clients all the time. Okay, well, are you going to get back to me today or tomorrow? Are you going to get by lunchtime? And I'll usually put a part of the day so they know when to get back to me. Because then what will happen is the mind they'll read it, and then the mind answers the question, because we can not answer the question, and it will go, oh, am I going to do it today or by lunchtime tomorrow? They tell me that's lunchtime tomorrow. Great, fantastic. I'll see you tomorrow.
Beautiful.
So it's just that quick, that if nothing else, go with a double bind. If you want someone to do something, have two preferences. That was an example of using time. Do you want the black or do you want the white? Do you want the yellow? Do you want the, I don't know, I can't think of another colour for some reason, pink. So you can, I think because I went and made up another story, do you want the fuzzy? Do you want, anyway. It's about, putting two choices, ask them to choose one, and they'll do it every time until they catch on, and then you have to let that, you have to use it when you want it to happen.
Use it wisely.
Yes, space it out so that they don't detect the pattern. And also when it works and you've realised you're like, oh, I just double binded, walk out, play it cool, and then go, yeah.
I'm smarter than my children. I'm smarter than my clients, whatever that looks like. Cathy, this has been so much fun, and I'm pretty sure we could talk for an extra 3 or 4 hours about this, because I just think you've got a wealth of information inside your own little brain, your linguistic brain. But if anyone wants to get in contact with you, if you've said some overly inspiring, which I'm sure you have said lots of inspiring things.
I love that. Is it overly? Can we be over inspired, under inspired, or just inspired?
We can be overly inspired. I'm owning it, and if I own it, they'll believe it. You told me so.
That's right.
If anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best place to get in contact with you?
Just cathyrust.com. That will be, or you can, that's the best place. Just click the button, the contact button. I'll make sure I'll jump in there right now and make sure it's all working and up and running. And what that does is you'll send me an email.
Oh,
and it'll kick you to an email. I may even have a template in there ready to go. So you just fill in what you want to chat about and get started. That's pretty
beautiful.
easy.
And do you hang out on the socials? What's your best social platform?
I do, but can you just put the link in the show notes? Because
absolutely. Do you have a preference of platform?
If you just type Cathy Rust in Instagram, Facebook is so fiddly. It's probably not what you want me to say to your audience, but but you know how you just love one more than the other?
Yes.
Instagram is so easy, so I'm in the Instagram. Sometimes I pop up on LinkedIn, but so if you just search Cathy Rust, it'll come up Cathy.L.Rust.linguistiologist. Told you it was a mouthful. I've done my proper thing of putting my name in. Have
Beautiful.
I might not have.
Well, you will have by the time this goes live, I'm sure. So, we'll just cut that bit out. It's all good.
Yes, just delete that bit. That bit there, just edit it. Oh my God.
I will, of course, have all those links in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming on. It's been a blast.
Oh, thank you.
Pleasure.
Did you enjoy that? How much amazingness was there? Look, Cathy, just blew me away. Again, if you want to if you want to connect with Cathy, then go to the show notes with all her links are in the show notes. You will, of course, find them at socialmedia.and marketing.com.au/207. But that's it for another week and for another great episode of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you again for listening. If you're not a member of the Like-Minded Business Owners group, then head over there and join, because that's where we have some fun during episodes. Otherwise, I will see you on the podcast next week for episode 208. If we're not friends on social, then let's get social on social. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And just one small favor before we go, if you know someone who you think would be really great for this podcast, shoot me a message and let me know, because I'm always looking for great guests on subjects that we haven't covered in 207 of them. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peep, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders,
past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.